Hello, everybody, friends and strangers, and people who will become new friends. Hope you're doing well today. My name is Wade Allen, and most people know me because I collect Hollywood memorabilia. And I've been doing this for 20 years now, since I was about 12 years old. Hard to believe. That's when I got my very first autograph, when I was 12 years old. Tom Poston, the old character actor, sent me a signed headshot in the mail, and then the next day I got one from Mary Tyler Moore, and I was hooked. I wrote fan letters all the time, and I remember trying so hard to get to 100 autographs. I kept them in an album, much like I do now, and I wrote to these stars that I grew up watching on TV, mostly classic TV stars, classic movie stars. I guess among the first people I ever wrote to, they were all older. I always kind of had a taste for classic television. I wrote people like Johnny Carson, Sid Caesar, Phyllis Diller, Ernest Borgnine. I remember writing Ruta Lee, Vicki Lawrence, Carol Burnett, Cheryl Ladd, Joan Collins, these people that I grew up watching on TV. And to my surprise, a lot of them wrote back to me. They would send me signed pictures like I requested, but a lot of them would write letters to me and tell me that I was their youngest fan, and and they wanted to know how I knew who they were, first of all, and then they wanted to know where I went to school and what my parents did for a living and how I got to be familiar with all of their programs. And so always being a great pen pal, I would always write these people back, and to my surprise, these friendships formed. It was really amazing. It was so effortless, really. I mean, I didn't even really think that it was happening at the time. I just knew that I was enjoying it, and that these people were writing me, that I was writing them, and it was just a lot of fun. And I remember working for my dad on Saturdays so that I'd get enough money to go buy a book of stamps on Monday so that I could write at least 20 letters that week, hopefully more. And we didn't have a PC at home then, so I was handwriting all of my letters. I was handwriting thank you letters. And at first I went to the library in Rutherford, North Carolina, the small little town where I grew up. And I checked out a book in the library called How to Write a Movie Star. And there was such a thing. And there was tips inside for, writing a best fan letter, that kind of thing. I remember reading it, and it kind of, I never followed everything it said, but I was inspired by it. And so I was always a very good writer, so I would write a very compelling letter. And I was always sincere and just told them about myself and what I liked about their work. And to my great delight, so many movie stars took an interest in me. And that's really how this all began. And then by the time I took my first trip to Hollywood, which was in May 2012, I actually got to go around and meet a lot of these people. They invited me to their homes, and we would go out to lunch, and those were some really great memories. It's like, we'd known each other for 10 years through the mail. It was really cool to finally get to meet them in person. I mean, I can't tell you how cool that was. But anyway, so that's a little background on how I got started in this. It took me a long time to get to 100 autographed pictures. I was requesting them one at a time, and so it took me probably a year or two to get 100 autographed pictures, and I would keep them in an album. And my dad always said, you need to get 100 of these things, because if you get 100, then you've got a serious collection. He felt that was something I could set aside and have forever, to enjoy. And, a lot of kids, they get into a hobby or an interest, and then they're into it for a year or 6 months, and then They don't care anymore about it. I think he thought that's what this was going to be. Well, obviously, it turned out much differently. It really changed my life. And these stars became my friends. And it's just been a wild roller coaster ever since. It's bled over into all aspects of my life. My career often has to do with interviewing famous people. A lot of times, people who I interview who are doing concerts in North Carolina, I have met them many years ago at other events, and they remember me, they know me, or I wrote them fan letters when I was a kid, so they remember my name. So as big as the world is, it can be such a small place, because a lot of times I'll call up these people for interviews, and they'll be like, well, I remember you. You wrote me a fan letter when, in 2005, and I still have it, and I loved it, and they have good memories of me. And I think that's a wonderful thing. One common misconception about Hollywood, there's a lot of them, actually, and we'll talk about a lot of that. One of the biggest is that people don't care. Big stars, little stars, past stars, current stars, people think, why would they care about me? They actually really do. There's a lot of big-time movie and TV actresses and actors out there who care a lot about their fans. There's a lot of them who are closer to their fans than they are their family. I had an actress tell me one time that she was closer to her fans because they never wanted anything from her. They just loved her and embraced her. As in contrast, her family always wanted something from her. They were using her. And I just thought that was so, A, sad, and B, interesting, that she felt like she was closer to me than like a lot of her family, But she was just more at home with me. It was fascinating. But stars do care about their fans. A lot of these people that I write to and have written to through the decades actually look at these fan letters personally. It's a funny story how this all started. Most people send fan letters to managers and agents and publicists in Hollywood. And then the publicist opens it, and then occasionally they pass a letter or two on to the star. The star doesn't see a lot of them. That happens a lot. And especially with big stars, They may respond and send an autographed picture, but they may have not personally read your letter just because they can't read 10,000 letters that they receive every day. But what was unique about me was that it was kind of a glorious accident. Not having the internet when I was 12 years old, I remember ordering a phone book from Los Angeles County, California. And this thing arrived, and it was like that thick. And it was divided into cities. Now, this was back when like the white pages was huge. There wasn't even such thing as whitepages.com. Everybody still went to the phone book. And I remember looking through the neighborhoods in Los Angeles in this phone book. And like there was a Beverly Hills, California section of this telephone book. And in there were movie stars' phone numbers and addresses. It's like unbelievable. I don't know how long that had been going on. I assume that's the way it used to be. But I had to have been at the tail end of that because the internet, when it boomed, it changed everything, and all of a sudden people had no privacy anymore. And so, that would never work today, but I would look up these stars' addresses in the phone book and then write to them. And what I was doing, I was sending these letters to their homes. I was bypassing the agents and the publicists all together. I was going right to the star. And so I picture these stars, they're going out like at their Beverly Hills homes, and they're walking to their mailbox in their fuzzy slippers and getting letters from me. Well, no wonder they were replying, because they were getting them like with their power bill and stuff. It's like I was probably the only fan letter going directly to their home, And so I think that's why at first I got such a personal reply, is because when I would look through these things, I would write to Richard Dawson and Priscilla Presley and Phyllis Diller and all these people at their homes. And they were personally replying because they had personally read my letter. And I think that was one of the more interesting aspects of it. I still send a lot of letters to personal addresses. That doesn't happen as much anymore because people are so private. But an address is an address. Give it a whirl. I just wrote actor Martin Sheen a couple of weeks ago at his home, and he replied. So, a lot of these people, they're just people like you and me. But they're not like you and me. And we'll talk more about that later, I am sure. So, fast forward. Anyway, when I was in college, I met my pen pal. Her name is Lauren Folk. She's my age. And Lauren is a city kid, grew up on the outskirts of Chicago. And she was always interested in older movie stars, classic TV like I Love Lucy. And Facebook was just being a thing. Like, it was just coming along. It was just for college students. And I remember I was a freshman in college and I was looking for new friends. And I got on this new thing called Facebook. And you could, they had little groups and, you could get on groups. And I remember punching in like the group for I Love Lucy and the group for like the Golden Girls fans. And I was like, hey, I got to find my people, And I noticed this girl kept commenting, and it was like, Lauren Folk, Lauren Folk, Lauren Folk. And she knew everything about these actors and these TV shows. It was like so fascinating. Well, of course, I friend requested her, and we got to know each other, and we started writing each other through the mail. And it wasn't too long where we did like a little Skype video chat thing, and that was a lot of fun. And she just loved my southern accent and my down-home sense of humor, and she loved the fact that I knew who all these people were and knew a lot of them personally. I think blew her mind a little bit. So we used to talk about me wanting to come to Los Angeles on vacation for the first time. And of course, being a college kid, I was broke all the time and didn't ever have enough money to drive home a lot of times, much less go to California. So it took me until May 2012 to save up enough money for my first trip to Los Angeles. I had been on the job. I had had a full-time job about 1.5 years by then, and I remember I had saved up a little bit out of every paycheck to be able to buy my travel expenses. And Lauren was going to let me stay with her, so I didn't have to worry about finding a hotel or anything, and I was too young to rent a rental car. So she picked me up at the airport, and we finally met, and it was just absolutely amazing. And that would have been like, I think it was May 22nd, 2012 is the day I flew out to Los Angeles. And our first day together, Lauren and I were driving, and she said, "What do you want to see first?" I said, "Oh, I want to see the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Take me to see the stars on the sidewalk." I had wanted to see that all my life. It was like a pilgrimage. So that's the first place we went. And we got there and parked, and oh my gosh, the glitter of Hollywood Boulevard is just absolutely amazing. And seeing all these famous theaters and famous places, I'm like, everybody looks famous. This is amazing. And it was just bigger than life. It was amazing. And having Lauren, who lived in Los Angeles, as my tour guide, it was like the best thing in the world. I had like the best tour guide in the whole wide world. Because she knew everything about the city. She knew everywhere to go. And I had also done my homework and knew places for us to go. So we had like 7 days of just non-stop action. It was so much fun. That first day, we really made tracks. I mean, we did stuff. We walked across every single star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And there's over 2,000 of them. And we walked across every single one. That's something I said I wanted to do. And we stopped at many of them and took selfies and pictures of each other. We stopped at special ones of people that I had known really well. I remember stopping at Carol Burnett's star, at Ann Jeffrey's star, Dolly Parton's star. We found Lucille Ball's star. We found Florence Henderson's. We found so many. It was so cool. And the stars are along Hollywood Boulevard in both directions on the sidewalk, and they're on a lot of side streets. And so we would go up and down the side streets too, and we walked across every single one of them. We had lunch at a little taco place there on Hollywood Boulevard, and then we took off out that afternoon and rode over to Beverly Hills. Oh my gosh, I finally get to go to Beverly Hills. After writing to these people here all my life, I finally get to go. Well, we started riding through the residential section, and I started recognizing the names of these famous streets. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I was like, Lauren, stop the car. I know who lives here because I've written them here for years. And so we would stop the car. I would look up. I brought my Rolodex with me. And we would look up the addresses of these stars and ride by their homes to take pictures from the road. We did this a lot. We saw Angie Dickinson's home. We saw Priscilla Presley's. We saw the home where Michael Jackson died. We saw Richard Dawson's home, Nanette Fabre's home, Peter Falk's home, Lucille Ball's former home. We saw where Jack Benny used to live, where Diane Keaton used to live. We saw where David and Victoria Beckham lived at the time. We rode by Carmen Electra's house. It was just kind of larger than life. And Lauren was absolutely loving it because she had never seen these places. I mean, she knew where some of these people lived, but she didn't know it like I did. And I knew all the street numbers because I had written these people and they had written me back from these addresses. So it was a lot of fun to go from house to house, exploring Beverly Hills. It's like larger than life. We had a ball. And every day on that trip, it kind of just got better and better and better. I was pen pals with the comedian Phyllis Diller, and we had been pen pals about 10 years. She was one of the very first stars that I ever wrote to, and she took an interest in me very early on, and she would send me greeting cards, Christmas cards, birthday cards. I would send her birthday gifts. I would send her Christmas gifts. She would always send me thank you notes. We just had a very thoughtful relationship. Anytime I would send her a letter telling her hope she had a wonderful day, she'd respond and send me autographed pictures for my collection. She would send me pictures of her and Bob Hope. She would send me pictures of her entertaining the troops in Vietnam. She sent me pictures of her and Eartha Kitt, Liberace, Lucille Ball. It was just kind of larger than life, And so I got to know Phyllis pretty well. And before I left for California that first trip, I had written a letter to Phyllis. And just like usual, and I was asking her where her favorite restaurants were. And to my great surprise, her secretary called me and she said, Wade, this is Carla Thomas. I'm Phyllis Diller's secretary. Well, I just about hit the floor. I'm like, wow, And she said, she wants to meet you. You've got to come over here. I said, what do you mean? I'm coming to her house? And she said, yes, you come into the house. She's instructed me to give you a tour of the property and answer any questions you might have. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I arranged for us to go to Phyllis Diller's house. So there, me and Lauren go. It was like my second day in town. We go riding through Beverly Hills to Brentwood, and the palm trees get bigger and bigger and bigger, and the houses get bigger and bigger and bigger, and we finally drive down South Rockingham Avenue where Phyllis lived. We were running a little early, and I was like, no, Lauren, we gotta be just right on time. We can't surprise these people and be 20 minutes early. So we went riding around a few streets over. I saw Carmelina Avenue. I saw Kenter Avenue. Bon Hill Road. I knew where all these places were because I had written stars who lived there. And so I was like, Lauren, drive down North Carmelina because that's where Julie Newmar lives. So we drive down North Carmelina Avenue there in Brentwood, and there is Julie Newmar, Catwoman from That Man TV show. And there she is inside of her window working, and she's known for her garden, and she's got gorgeous flowers, and it was so cool to see her garden. We just turned around, waved, went back up the street. I said, well, go on South Carolina because that's where Betty White lives. So we rode by Betty White's house. We rode by Angela Lansbury's house. We rode by Dabney Coleman's house. And we did all this while we were waiting on Phyllis. Kind of unbelievable. And so it finally got time for us to go to Phyllis's place. So we went over to South Rockingham Avenue, and down the street from where O.J. Simpson used to live is where Phyllis Diller lived. And she had this mansion. I am talking old Hollywood, just to the nth degree. I mean, this place was gorgeous, and such a well manicured lawn, and oh, it was so exciting. And we went inside, we took a tour, we met Carla, her secretary. She offered us a drink. We saw Phyllis's artwork. Phyllis was a very accomplished artist, and she had an art studio and art gallery in her home. And there were hundreds of paintings on the walls. It was absolutely amazing. I actually got to take one home with me. And I still have it, of course. And it was cool. We got to see, Phyllis had a wig room in her home. She had a room just for her hair. And it was upstairs. And they had zebra print on the ceiling. And there were like 300 pegs on the walls. And on every peg was a hairpiece. All different colors. Blonde, gray, red, blue, purple, rainbow. It was amazing. And she would go in there and pick out her hair for the day. It was unbelievable. She even had a lot of her wigs in there from her stage performances. You know, the fight wigs that were absolutely huge. Yeah, it was really cool. We saw a director's chair with her name on it. I saw a lot of costumes she used to wear on the Johnny Carson show. It was just unbelievable. And we took a long time walking through Phyllis's place, and she had a huge oil painting of Bob Hope in her living room. And every room had a name, which was hilarious. And she called her living room the Bob Hope Salon. And in there was a huge oil painting of a very distinguished older Bob Hope. And I mean, you've never seen such a pretty picture in all your life. It was just striking. And oh my gosh, he looked sinfully handsome. And they had a very, very long personal and professional relationship. They were best friends. They were, she was on a lot of his movies, TV specials. Like I said, they entertained the troops together. They had a wonderful, wonderful relationship. And so that was really cool to see that painting of him. There was a grand piano there. That was covered in pictures. I mean, pictures of her and every movie star that had ever been. It was so cool. I mean, it was a lot to take in. It really was. We finally got to meet Phyllis. Had a ball. We laughed. She did some of her stand-up for us while we were just hanging out and talking. We got to have drinks with her. She signed some autographs for us. She played the grand piano for us. I got to sit with her at the grand piano. We took pictures. It was just absolutely amazing. And she was 94 years old at the time. And, she didn't act like she was 94. She's having a little hard time getting around. And I remember her holding my hand as we walked through her home, We walked by pictures of her and Bette Midler and her and, princes and kings and, Ronald and Nancy Reagan. She knew all these people. She had been in show business so long. She had entertained at the White House. There were pictures of her with numerous presidents. It was really, really fascinating. And unfortunately, I guess we had to have been one of Phyllis's last visitors because she passed away not too long after that. That was in May, and she died in August. So, but we finally got to meet. After all those years, Phyllis and I got to meet. It was amazing. And, those are memories to treasure for a lifetime, How often do you get to meet one of your heroes, And she definitely was a hero to me, I always was funny and, a comedy cut up, and I would stay up late and watch Phyllis on TV. I thought she was a hoot, And I remembered her on TV shows from when I was a little kid, I remember her on Scooby-Doo and Full House. And I mean, she really, Bold and the Beautiful, she really made the rounds. Even as an older actress, she still got out there and did stuff. It was really cool. But Phyllis was an amazing lady. Also on that trip, now we're just talking like day 2 of a 7-day trip to Hollywood. My first trip to Hollywood. We're only on day 2, and we've already done all that stuff. Amazing. Lauren took me to the Santa Monica Pier. She took me to Malibu. We rode by Cher's house. I remember us stopping at the gate to take pictures at Cher's house. I mean, like, does it get any cooler than that? I remember that the gate had big iron C initials engraved into it. I mean, it's like larger than life. And here is this home overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Prettiest view you've ever seen in your life. I mean, oh my gosh, it was just gorgeous. And that was amazing. I went to the Grove, the popular shopping area in Los Angeles, and met so many movie stars. Mario Lopez and Maria Menounos were taping the TV show Extra there. And so I sat in, while Lauren was at work one day, I sat there and watched them tape 4 or 5 episodes of the TV show. And I met Glenn Close, Debbie Allen, Bethany Frankel, so many cool people. That was such a wonderful day. Lauren took me to Paramount Pictures, and she arranged for us to have a VIP tour from one of her friends who worked there. And so we didn't go on like the tour that everybody goes on. He like had us to his bungalow, showed us around, drove us around on a golf cart in his own free personal time. That was just really, really cool. And Lauren arranged that for us. It was so interesting. We got to see Lucille Ball's former office. We got to see where they used to tape the Brady Bunch. I remember walking onto the set of Dr. Phil. Back then, the TV show Rizzoli and Isles was filming, and we actually went on the set of Rizzoli and Isles. And, all that was at Paramount Pictures, right there on Melrose Avenue in Hollywood. It was really cool. We went to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. Lauren and I did. We saw the graves of a lot of famous people. We really had a lot of fun. That first trip was amazing. Later on in the week, actress Ann Jeffries called me, and we went by her house and spent the afternoon with her. And that was amazing as well. She was born in North Carolina. She was born in Goldsboro. And she became a big, big star on Broadway. And then she went to Hollywood. She married actor Robert Sterling, and they had a very famous TV show in black and white in the early 50s called Topper. And it was all about a ghost, and the ghostest with the mostest. And it was funny. It ran into the same time as I Love Lucy. And a lot of people to this day remember Ann Jeffries and Robert Sterling from their show called Topper. And anyway, that was really cool. I was a good friend with Ms. Ann Jeffries. She was wonderful. And she had helped me with some fundraising auctions, including one for United Way of Gaston County. We had done a purse power auction where I had asked celebrity friends to donate handbags that they had worn on the red carpet. And these were auctioned off at a fundraiser at Gaston Country Club. And this was to benefit United Way. And the emphasis that year was an anti-bullying initiative. And Ms. Jeffries really took an interest. She made us a promotional video. I think she donated about 15 handbags that she'd worn on TV shows and on the red carpet. It was absolutely amazing and so generous of her. She even made a personal donation. I remember her writing a check and giving it to me. So incredible. But she had me and Lauren over to her home. She lived in a gorgeous white brick home with a big red front door with lemon trees in the back. And she lived in Bel Air, near the Bel Air Country Club. And she told me and Lauren the story of her husband, Robert Sterling, and President Nixon playing golf over at the Bel Air Country Club. And so we arrived at Ms. Jeffries' home, and she came walking down the grand staircase, and everything was so formal. I mean, there were crystal chandeliers, and they had arranged for us to have drinks, and She said, let's adjourn to the parlor. And so we went into a room with a huge gold leaf grand piano covered in more pictures with movie stars. I had told her we'd been to Phyllis Diller's house, and she knew Phyllis and had been there. And I remember she said, what'd you think about that red kitchen? Phyllis was known for her bright red kitchen, and she called it the Scarlet Scullery. I told you every room had a name. And the walls, the appliances, the floor, the ceiling, everything was bright red, you know. So you couldn't miss Phyllis Diller's kitchen. She loved to cook, and I guess she spent a lot of time in there. But anyway, Miss Jeffries remembered her bright red kitchen, and we told her we'd have a wonderful day, wonderful week. We got to talk to her about a lot of the TV shows she did. We talked to her about a lot of the soap operas she appeared on. She took my roses, and her housekeeper put them in a crystal vase and put them on display in the foyer for us to see. And then Ms. Jeffries took us out back, showed us her pool and her cabana, showed us her lemon trees. She showed us her rose bushes, and she actually picked her pink rose and gave it to me for me to take home with me, which was really cool. And all that was on my very first trip to Hollywood. Lauren and I had a wonderful time. We had just the most wonderful week. And it would take me just over 2 years from there to save up for my next trip out there. My second trip to Los Angeles was not until June 2014. But I saved up and went back. And I've been going back at least 2 times a year since then. And so I go a lot more now than I used to, because I make it a priority to go. I have so many friends out there who I enjoy visiting with, and we have a lot of fun. Before every trip out that I go out there, I send out a mass mailing to all my friends and acquaintances out there. And I send them a letter, personalized. I tell them my travel dates, I put my cell phone number on there, and I tell them if they want to hang out to give me a call. A lot of these people, they just start calling. They'll say, let's make plans, let's go to dinner, let's meet for coffee by the beach, let's meet for lunch in Beverly Hills, let's meet for a burger here, or you know, it's just amazing. People really want to get together, and so that makes every trip I take to Hollywood so much fun. And I know you all enjoy seeing my pictures and videos so much from out there. I just got back about a month ago from a trip out there, and it was absolutely wonderful, just like always. And in my next video entry, I will talk about more trips to Hollywood. I think we'll talk about my second trip to Hollywood on the next video entry. That would be my trip in June 2014. And again, I stayed with Lauren at her apartment. She had a new apartment by then, and she had moved from Burbank over to Sherman Oaks. She lived in the valley. It was so beautiful over there. And so we had even more wonderful times in June 2014. And we'll talk all about those later. And for now, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. This is my first attempt at a video vlog, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I sure have had a lot of fun hanging out with you. I hope you enjoyed hearing a little bit about the background of why I do this and how I got started. We'll talk more about that later too, if you want to. Please subscribe to my page on YouTube. Follow me on Facebook. Like me on Twitter. Please follow me on Instagram, WadeAllen7. I'm trying to get to 700 followers. I'm only 10 away. So see if you can help me out there. I hope you have a wonderful day. God bless you, and thank you for watching. This is Mr. Hollywood Wade Allen saying have a good night. Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars.